It's gonna be a good one.
It's gonna be a good one.
Definitely a different type of process.
Cut down or freeze up.
Being a coach's son.
Jackson, of course, they keep retooling. One stolen base, a hit by pitch. Oh my goodness. Hello everyone, welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast, Baseball Talk. Today on the show, joining me once again, Mr. Head Coach Dave Wiggins, Webster Groves, recruits baseball, knowledge guru, all of the above, right?
Hey man, I'll take whatever moniker you assign me.
We love having Coach Wiggins on the show, dropping knowledge for us. Dave, appreciate you being here with us today, buddy.
Always a pleasure. Happy to be back.
Absolutely. We are going to talk some MCC. It's unfortunate we had some technical difficulties. We were going to have Coach Mason Horn on with us from CBC, but was unable to get that. We'll get those technical difficulties resolved, and we'll get Coach Horn back on the show talking some MCC baseball. We're talking players right now, but we definitely want to do that, and so appreciate Coach Horn for working on it with us, but we'll get him there. So make sure today, though, you check out Game 7 Baseball, game7baseball.com. Get yourself signed up. Schedule is ready. I know everybody's preparing. Schedules are flying out. People are already starting to book baseball tournaments for the spring, getting your travel, whatnot. Hey, and we hope to see a recruits team there. Your invite is open. We're going to be at we got the Super 7 Invitational. We're going to have a great weekend. We got some cool things coming up. We're setting some stuff up. We've been talking with Coach Sissel, Mitch Thomas with the hitting zone, doing some special stuff. We're looking at that for that tournament. We got 14U baseball, and one of the reasons why we're doing this invitational is we want to get a look at as many players going into that high school season as we can. Where are you going to school? What are you doing? What's this player about? What's this? And start looking at that. And that was kind of the thought process behind this tournament. And of course, play some baseball, have some fun. We got interviews. We'll be live streaming. It's going to be a fun weekend. That's May 30th through June 1st, that weekend there. We're looking forward to it. And so please, love to have one of your teams there, Mr. Wiggins. 14U.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we've got a number of 14U teams that we could definitely send. Just love what you guys do for the youth in our baseball community, not just the high school guys, but for the younger guys as well, including them. And it's always exciting for the kids once they finish 8th grade to get ready to go into high school, and that's when they start thinking about, well, what's my ranking going to be? Who knows about me and all that fun stuff. So just the more love that we can give those kids as they get into high school, I think it's cool for them.
Absolutely. And I love finding out who's the personality. Where's that kid?
Oh yeah.
Because you got the kids that just like, no, man, that's cool. I don't want to talk about it. And then there's the guys that are like, let's go, bro. Let's talk. And I love that part of it. I love finding those personalities and enjoying the conversations with the players. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
I agree with you. Definitely.
So, and not to mention, we're going to have working with Game 7 out at the WAC. We're putting on the Centennial Games. So we're going to be live streaming some American Legion baseball from the WAC.
Awesome.
It's 100 years of American Legion baseball in 2025. Oldest club baseball in the nation right there, man, is American Legion.
Yeah. I grew up. I played it. I played for Post 156, Kirkwood. Coached for Kirkwood, coached for Creve Coeur. Had a blast back in the Legion days. It was a ton of fun. It was basically an extension of high school baseball. It was lots of fun, and I know there's kids out there today that are still really loving it and enjoying it. So it's cool to see it kind of make a little bit of a comeback, you know?
Absolutely. Well, over there, as you're saying, 156, Chris Copeland, who is taking charge of that program over there. I think he's doing some very good things with the program. And I
Yeah.
love that part. And you know, Dave, we're going to come back to that conversation. Oh, I could have gone down a way big rabbit hole right there, because I think there's some cool stuff to do, you know, within what we're doing and giving kids at different levels. Not everybody is this player up here.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So where does a player fit in that moment, and where does he get the best development process and those types of things, right?
Yeah. Where could he get the most opportunities? You know, for some kids, it's in families, it makes more sense to stay local and, you know, play games during the week instead of playing every weekend and having to travel. There's just a lot of different factors that come into it. And there's very talented kids playing not just club baseball. So, you know, it's just the more baseball that these kids can play and the more they're able to, you know, further further their playing days up until college and even into college. I think it's great for all these kids. We're pro baseball here. So pro as in for baseball here.
There you go. And I didn't know this, but I think it's Carrick Jackson, right? Mizzou head
Yes.
coach.
Yep.
He's a post 156 alum.
Oh, he went to Kirkwood High. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, here's a funny tidbit. When I was a sophomore, I was the only Webster Groves player on the Kirkwood Legion JV team. And boy, did I feel out of place.
Especially in those days, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Man.
Where's my guys? Oh, mercy. You had your own pitchers thrown at you.
Hey, man. It was rough. You know, being the only kid in the orange and black at the tryout, and I'm looking around, I'm like, what is going on right now? Because Slava was big, too. So it was between Legion and Slava.
Yeah.
And I chose Legion. It had always been a dream of mine to play Legion ball. I actually got to play varsity Legion for Scott Goodrich, who's the head coach at STLCC. I still have friends to this day that I played with and against in Legion ball. And, you know, back then, dude, I got to give up bombs to Scott Van Slyke. You know, and that was there were some really, really elite high school talented players playing back then, and it was fun.
So you were at the same time my nephew Kyle was on the Baldwin 611 squad, and Scott Van Slyke was in center field. Yeah, that kid.
Yeah, for Brentwood. Yep.
Oh man, that was some good baseball, man.
Oh, that was awesome. Under the lights on Baldwin Field 1. I mean, it was as close to an extension of high school baseball as you had. You had your home field. You know, you traveled, but you traveled 10 minutes down Manchester. You know, you didn't go to other. Now, a big tournament we did was a Mountain Home Arkansas tournament, and you talk about a small town that rallies around its team. They were sponsored by the local sporting goods store there. I think it was Locker Room Sports. They had like 15 different crazy uniform combinations. 5,000 people came to their Friday night game in that tournament. Oh, you felt like you were a big leaguer if you got that Friday night game against them. It was really, really cool. And, you know, that atmosphere, you can't replicate that really in club ball, you know, and that's, you know, it is what it is. It's just a different animal.
And I think that's the thing, you know, it's all club baseball. American Legion, you know, you think about it. You have your 15U, 17U, 19U. It's the same thing, same processes and whatnot. And I think sometimes people lose sight of that a little bit within, you know, the scope of what we have today. And I think club baseball as it is, it's a matter of, do you have a quality coach? Do you have somebody who's going to help you develop at the right pace for you and doing your things you need to do? Are you in the right space that fits you, your family economically, for you as a player? And I think those are decisions I think sometimes we don't make when it comes to that, do we?
No, I agree with you totally. I see a lot of, you know, the best club teams that retain the most players. I think it has to do with that coach and the relationships he builds with the families and the players. It doesn't matter what logo they're wearing. Most of those kids are staying there for that coach because there's so many good clubs around that have great training programs that play competitive schedules. It's more about the relationship aspect of where do I fit best.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know we are going to talk some players here, but I love this conversation, man. This is great conversation.
For sure.
We're because we're in such a, I think sometimes maybe a polarized. Do you see a shift coming a little bit within maybe what we're going to see over the next 5 years within club baseball as it is?
Yeah, I could see it a little bit, especially at the 15, 16U level, just because of the new recruiting rules. We played, my 16U team played an awesome schedule this summer, and were there coaches there? Sure, but a lot of them were Power 5 schools or Power 4 now, bigger schools that are looking at guys that they can contact on August 1st before their junior year. There's not a lot of mid majors out. There's no D2s watching. So you really have kind of set up to where, once again, 17U baseball is the big recruiting summer. Whereas for the last couple seasons, we can get guys out to see 15s and 16s because you can land them, before that rule came out. Now you've got to wait. So if you're a 15-year-old about to play a 15U summer schedule and you think it's going to be highly scouted, you're in for a change there. It's not, because these coaches, they can't even reach out to you until August 1st of going into your junior year of high school. So if I'm a family and I'm a little bit more financially, not as financially gifted or whatever, I might choose, hey, I might choose to play a little bit more local schedule. I might look at Legion for my freshman or my sophomore son because it's going to be more about playing the games and the development and, seeing decent competition versus going out and kind of chasing that exposure. I have 12 and 13-year-olds who are looking for exposure right now. Like, exposure to what? Let's my biggest thing for all these young men is, let's make a varsity roster. Let's be a contributor on a varsity baseball team before we want to talk about what college we want to attend. And the new rules pushing all that back, I think, has helped lead to that, where kids are now like, yeah, I need to be a varsity contributor. I need to be able to show, these schools my development, my freshman, my sophomore, up to my junior year, to where they can kind of follow me, but they can know about me if I'm one of those type of, which we'll talk about kids today who are probably in that window. But I mean, even 16-year-olds, the 27s we're going to talk about, they could have huge summers. And August 1st, they could get 15 to 20 phone calls. That'd be really, really cool. Right. Or they could have a decent summer. They could have a good summer, and they could have a couple texts or phone calls. Hey, we're going to follow you. Hey, we want to get to know you a little bit more, because it's now kind of extended the recruiting process and given these schools an opportunity to kind of get to know these kids a little bit more and build a relationship with them, instead of locking them up when they're eighth graders or freshmen. And then you're seeing for the 25s. I mean, the 25s are in a heck of a time right now because so many of these kids are losing their scholarship offers due to the roster changes. When you have a 54-guy roster in the fall of 24, and in a year that's got to be cut down to 34 guys, usually these coaches they're gonna start snipping off the 25 position players, and you're seeing that happen across the country. You're seeing kids who committed as eighth graders and freshmen. Just want to let you all know I'm decommitting, or hey, so and so called. This school called and said they can't honor my scholarship anymore. I think we've realized that, although it was really cool and it was fun to post on social media and it got your cred up, and it might have gotten you on, some favor earlier on in your baseball playing career as a high schooler, at the end of the day, is it what's best for the kid? I don't believe so, because so many of them are now getting cut loose. And with that new rule that went into effect last April, it is really kind of cut off that ability for the kid to commit early, kill his recruiting journey, stop being reached out to by schools. And then, oh, wait, next thing you know, going into my senior year, the school that I've told everyone and I believe that I'm going to for the last 3 to 4 years, they no longer want me. Now what do I do? Where do I go?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, it really is. I mean, like, prime example from my team Andon Hyde had a heck of a game against some of the top pitchers in the country down in Atlanta in front of 50 college scouts. Hit 2 home runs with a wood bat. I mean, just went off. And I have coaches asking me who he is. I'm like, well, he's committed to Xavier. It doesn't matter who he is to you. Like, he's committed to Xavier. You may want to decommit. That's your own problem. But this young man's committed to Xavier. That's where he's going. That's where he wants to play baseball. And he has chosen to stop his recruiting journey. And that works for him, right? But at the end of the day, there's nothing stopping Xavier next year in the fall. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but there's nothing stopping these schools from cutting these guys loose. And it's not the school's fault. It's not the school being rude or ruthless. It's those coaches have to win. They got to win right away. And they got to build a roster that's going to win right away. And if you haven't developed into the player they believe you were going to be or they need you to be, then you will not set foot on that campus.
That's as cut and dried as it gets, because as you said, these are coaches that are making a living at coaching collegiate baseball, high level Division I collegiate baseball, and they're feeding their families and they're bringing kids into, if you don't make it, all of a sudden you're fired and you're going somewhere else. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, and you got to think about it from the coach's perspective too. They're not only trying to win and coach baseball and manage their team, they're trying to build relationships with their recruits. And they're trying to make their recruits feel like they're wanted and they want them. And then they have to turn around and basically tell that young man that they've developed that relationship with, I'm sorry, I can't honor your scholarship, or I'm sorry, I don't have a spot for you in 6 months, in 8 months, whatever. Like, that's got to be hard on the coach too, because the coach has to almost feel like, man, I've told this kid over and over that he's our guy and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, this is a business. I've got to keep my job. I've got to do what's best for me and my program. And a lot of times that's not what's best for the kid that committed early.
And we've talked about, I know Sissel has brought up Evan DeMario, Brendan Goring from St. Charles West, a couple of kids in a similar boat. What do we do now? Where are we going?
Well, look at Trey Jozwikowski, one of the best players in the 25 club. I've known Trey since he was 8 years old, committed to Mizzou, going into his freshman year. Now, thankfully, Trey found an amazing fit in Central Missouri, which, you can say what you want about D2 baseball, but Central Missouri could beat a lot of Division I teams. They're one of the best teams in the country. And with this new change, Division II baseball, especially at that level, is going to be just like Division I baseball. It's going to be loaded with guys that can play D1, but they want to go play right away.
And I'm going to tell you, Jozwikowski makes that team really good.
He absolutely does. Yes. Yeah. There's not enough great things I can say about Trey, knowing him as long as I have and knowing the family. I was so pumped when I saw that UCM was what he chose. Because you ask a lot of guys around our circle, it's D2, but a lot of we look at it like, that's as close to D1 ball as you can get, and the coaching and the development there is next to none.
Yeah, I think you look at a program there that's been in the top 25 for the last I don't know how many years. If you're in the top 20, right, you're in top 25 at division, you can play at a high level of baseball. I don't care,
Absolutely. Go watch a D2 baseball game sometime. Anybody listening to this and just realize how good these guys truly are. You're talking about the stock righty in the GLVC, which is the D2 conference here in the Midwest. The stock right-handed pitcher is 88 to 90 now. You got dudes 94, 96. That used to not be the case, but times are changing. And if you're really, really good and you want to play right away and you see that avenue to do that at a Division II school or a smaller D1 than you would at a larger school, a lot of guys are taking that shot now because you can get drafted out anywhere. I think that's pretty clear, given the D3 and the D2 guys that have gone to the big leagues lately. So
I agree. When you look at from Missouri Southern to Drury to Maryville to UMSL, Quincy, UCM. I mean, go to any of those programs, you're going to be playing in the postseason.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep.
right? I just,
Well,
they're
and that's the other thing to consider, right? I mean, do you want to be chasing a championship at the D2 level, or do you want to go to a D1 school where you're going to win 6 games? Yes. Some guys have different goals. I
yeah,
knew a kid years and years ago whose dream was to play D1 ball. He didn't care if he played an inning. He wanted to be on a D1 roster. So he took a D1 non-scholarship offer, and he lived out his dream. I've had kids who had D1 offers, but they want to play baseball sooner. They want to get a little bit more money for their education. They want to compete for a championship. So there's a lot of different things to consider versus I got to play D1 ball. It's not that cut and dry.
that's a great conversation leading in because we're looking at these players here. We're going to start with the 2025 class here.
Yep.
Right off the skip, JD Dorman, number
Yep.
6 in the prep baseball rankings. Vianney, he's had some injury. Excuse me, but this kid is legit, isn't he?
Oh, he's very, very good. Um, Unfortunately, he didn't get to throw a whole lot in the spring last year due to that injury. I know he's also a high level basketball player, and sometimes it's hard for those guys to ramp up as well in time for spring. But he turned out to have a solid summer. I'm looking at some video on PBR just of him throwing down in Atlanta. It's a really clean delivery. It's smooth. It's into the low 90s already. You figure it this time. What is it? November. You figure by March, if the young man stays healthy, he could be holding 90. He could be up to 3 or 4. But he's a pitcher. And the cool thing about him is he came up as a catcher, outfielder, pitcher, and he's kind of really settled into that role as a pitcher, not just a guy that gets on the mound and throws. If you watch his delivery, you don't look at him and say, "Oh yeah, that kid, he probably did used to be a catcher." It doesn't look like he used to catch. It's a good delivery. It's repeatable. It's smooth. Um, he's a big piece for Vianney this year. That if he can stay healthy, that's something they were missing. That could really help propel them in the MCC for sure.
Yeah, because Jaden Ferguson right behind him, committed to Texas. My goodness, that 1-2 punch, if those guys are healthy, and I think you're right, because you wonder where was Vianney last year? They were around 500. They just
Yeah.
never, with the injuries and stuff, they just never got there. It
Yeah,
just,
they just couldn't put it all together. It was a
yeah,
super talented roster, great coaching staff. Um, just couldn't put it together when they needed to. And I think a big piece of that was not having the stable of arms that they thought they were going to have. They had some guys step up, though, who we didn't really expect to be good arms for them, that were good arms for them that helped. But when
right,
you're projecting JD Dorman to throw 9 to 11 of your games and he can't pitch for you, that's a huge loss, right?
right,
When you've got Jaden, who is as intimidating of a bullpen arm as you could probably ever find at the high school level. Um, you need guys to get him. You need guys to get the lead to him, though, right? And then it's his job to lock it down. I mean, he topped 96 on our gun at Webster this spring. 96 as a
jeez,
17-year-old. I'm sitting 92, 94 through just a seed past poor Shota Ishiyama for his 96 mile an hour PR, and love Shota for it. He's like, man, that looked 96. Um, and you're just talking about a talent, just a talented arm there. Um, I don't know for sure, but I think he may be dealing with some injury concern right now. But when you're that young and you throw that hard, it's hard to stay away from injury.
yes.
I still think he's going to have a really good college career ahead of him. You see guys with these injuries and they get over them a year from now, and next thing you know, they're in college bullpens or in college rotations. And man, if both of those dudes are healthy, though, if you got Dorman and Ferguson, you know, Fergie back to back behind Dorman. The thing about Ferguson is he's more of a reliever. I think he settles in more to that role. I think he did start a playoff game for him, but I've seen him be used primarily as a reliever. But they have some good 26 arms behind them too, that can come up and really assume the mantle that the guys last year like Spoonhour and Dorman were supposed to fill but weren't able to.
You look at we have Nolan Jaworski on this list here. He's going to Cincinnati, but as we talked about Trey Giles Wachowski,
Yeah.
Riker Benz,
Yep.
these are talented senior players.
Yes.
I mean, if Vianney, honestly, to me, isn't in the Final Four this year, this in 25, I mean, I don't know when you would get there with this group of kids.
I think it all comes down. I mean, I think they always have a shot just because of the influx in talent that they get every year. There's a lot of kids that no one really knows about yet that are going to really show out. It's going to all come down to, can they stay healthy? Jaws Wachowski was dealing with a back issue a lot of the spring. It kind of decreased his ability to drive the ball like we know he can. Nolan posted an 870 OPS. But if he had played Webster every game, it would have been like a 6,000 OPS. He's the statesman killer. I can't get the dude out. It drives me absolutely insane. He's got big time juice from the left side. Son of Aaron, who's just an awesome guy who's played at a super high level, Mizzou and professional baseball. So the bloodlines, the genes are there. You can't miss him. He's a giant. he's just a big friendly giant. Super nice kid, but absolutely punishes the baseball. And he will have a better senior year this year than he had last year. I guarantee that. I just think last year was a little bit of an anomaly for him. But like I said, put him against my guys, and he's Babe Ruth, or I guess he's left-handed. Shohei Ohtani. There you go.
Well, Babe was left. Babe was on the left side.
Yeah, what am I talking about? Right, yeah, Babe was left-handed too. Cool.
All right.
So yeah, that's Cincinnati, right? University of Cincinnati. There you go. Power 4 school right there. Awesome campus, awesome field down in this little like kind of bowl area. Really, really good fit for Nolan, and thinks he's still kind of scratching the surface as to how polished he's going to be as he continues to mature.
Yeah, absolutely. DeSmet right there in this, Charlie Wortham. I mean, absolute stud of a player there, number 21 with the prep baseball. Talk. What have you seen from him?
Yeah, I haven't gotten to see a whole lot of Charlie in person, and I'm sad to say that. I've been trying to get DeSmet on my schedule for a while. He's going to Mississippi State, right? I mean,
right. Exactly.
Clearly he can absolutely ball. He put up really, really good numbers last year as a junior at DeSmet. He had 423 with a 552 on base and a 763 slug. So, you're talking about an OPS north of 1,300, 6 tanks, 15 doubles. I believe he's a catcher. I think he and the next young man we're going to talk about will split time behind the dish. I haven't gotten to see a lot of them, but I've heard obviously amazing things. I'm looking at videos on PBR, just a really, really good balanced swing, juice. I kind of wish Mason was on here to tell us a little bit more about Charlie because I can't do him the service that he's deserved here. I just haven't gotten to see him, but I've just heard from others that he's an outstanding baseball player.
Kanan Patterson right behind him there. These guys, and I think DeSmet, Coach Canavan, we were trying to get, that's the thing. These guys are still, they're teachers. So,
right. Yeah, I'm not.
And so they're in school and whatnot, but we're going to work to get them back on and talk about this a little bit. So we'll keep moving on here a little bit, but I love Kanan Patterson at number 51 down there. I mean, you think, and here's the thing: people look at this, Dave, and they'll say, "Oh, 51. He's going to Southeast Missouri State," and this is another school I think that's going to benefit a lot from these kids. You had Brooks Kettering, who's down there from Glendale, who is a stud baseball player, and you pick up players like this going down to this, it's Division I, but everybody kind of forgets about SEMO, don't they?
Yeah, they shouldn't. They're usually, in the last few years, they've been atop of the OVC. They're extremely well coached. I love their pitching guy, Matthew Kinney. You've got a kid who went to Mizzou out of high school, then went to Johnson County. Now he's there in Shea McGann from Lindbergh. just flourishing down there. Other St. Louis products, talent have gone down there and done really, really well. Yeah. Once again, it's Division I baseball. It is Division I baseball. You're playing the greatest baseball you've ever played when you go play Division I baseball. Doesn't matter what the name of the school is or what conference it's in. But I mean, SEMO, I think a few years ago they even made a regional. I think they ended up having to play Arkansas, which that was fun. I mean, for them, hell, I mean, you got nothing to lose, right? Like, let's go.
Right.
Let's go beat the Omahawks. Keep out of Omaha. But no, Kanan, I think it feel like last year's where he really popped. Very twitchy, very athletic, strong kid. Had an OPS north of 1100, 5 home runs, 1 triple, 6 doubles. I think he also stole. I think he stole a decent amount of bases as well, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see here. Yeah, he had 9 swipes, no caught stealings. So you're perfect on the bags. And being a catcher, you probably don't get a ton of opportunities to run. So when you do get a chance to run when you're not catching that day, maybe he doubles that if he's not catching some of those games. But from what I've seen, it looks like he works really, really hard. He's really turned himself into a Division I prospect. Had a great junior year at DeSmet, and he's going to be smack dab in the middle of that order with Charlie and punishing pitchers in all conferences this spring.
Yeah. Now, the one thing in the 2026 class, I always find it fascinating because Coach Horn, if we was on here, he'd be like, I don't know, we may not be very good. I mean,
he always says that.
I know, right?
But
and that junior GT Taylor, man, that kid's full real.
Oh yeah, Light Tower Power. GT is just from the time I had seen him when he was 11 or 12, I'm like, oh, that's an athlete playing baseball. And when that dude turns into a baseball player who's also an athlete, I know he gets some Nazan comps here and there because they go to the same high school, and he's got similar hair to Nas, and they're both very twitchy. What do you have? 6? I'll pull this up. I think he had 7 home runs as a sophomore last year. He hit a slew more home runs in the summer as well for his Wow Factor team, playing against really good competition. Most of that with a wood bat. Can play infield, can play outfield. I think he might project a little bit better in the outfield. Plus arm. I think he's a sub-7, close to a sub-7 runner. But once again, I mean, he's a junior in high school, right? He hasn't fully developed. He's still figuring out the contact piece and the consistency piece. But when you see a young man who, as a sophomore in one of the best conferences in the state, hit 7 home runs, 2 triples, 5 doubles, I couldn't care less that the average is 263. I love the slug. I mean, you got a slug of 658 and on base at 391. You're 1,000 OPS, right? I mean, and you're 1,000 OPS as a sophomore in that lineup. That's impressive, and it's only going to get better. Very talented young man.
He'll eventually figure out the consistency in the swing. That he's young.
He's young. I think he's young for the class too, if I'm not mistaken.
I want to ask you, we've talked about the last couple of kids, we're looking at, 6 to 8 home runs in a high school season. For people that may not be initiated to that, what would you, if you're talking about like professional baseball and 160, where would you, what is that similar to in that respect? Is it like hitting 30 home runs?
I would say if you're in the 10 or more home run range, you're probably close to like that 40 home run guy in pro ball. If you're above 6 to 9, 27 to 30, 32, 33 jacks, I would assume. And that's just me kind of brainstorming.
Sure.
I'm trying to think of, when Tate Matheny put up his monster spring, I think it was 10 triples, 10 home runs. That's when you start talking like Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani type stuff, OPS north of 2,000, which is insane. But when you're talking about a sophomore in high school who's got more home runs than most of the state, and he's not playing low level, he's not playing small school ball, he's playing large school ball. there's just no doubt the power's there. And, say that 263 average goes 310 as a junior, those home runs probably get close to 9 or 10, right?
Yeah.
Just the more contact he makes, he's going to drive the baseball.
And
And those guys are fun. They're fun to
yeah,
watch.
because the only two guys I've seen like that in recent times comes to mind on the same team, and that was Jake McCutcheon and
Yeah.
Brett Norfleet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those guys in that 1 year put up video game numbers together. It was McCutcheon's senior year, and Norfleet. My goodness, I think they both hit double-digit home runs. They were close to that in double. I know there were plenty of that in doubles and triples. I mean, it was just they were unconscious that year. My goodness.
Yeah. When I look at a hitter that I think is going to project as a better hitter at the next level, it's hard to just look at average because a lot of guys can get fat on average by slapping singles. You really got to look at the extra base hit total. And, GT had, 14 extra base hits. That's when you're talking teens and extra base hits, especially as a sophomore. That's what really excites scouts and excites schools at the next level. I mean, he's getting a lot of love from some larger schools. He was committed to Mizzou. I think he chose a decommit because he wanted to reopen his recruiting process and look elsewhere. But you don't see Power 4 schools going after guys who hit 400 with 2 doubles and a triple. You just don't see it. They need to see the power projection. They need to see the ability to drive the baseball.
Makes sense. Grant Murhoff is another kid, CBC, number 12 on this list. They've got some. It'll be interesting. CBC never sneaks up on anybody, but they've got young guys, don't they?
They absolutely do. And Grant, I had the pleasure of getting to coach Grant this summer. Grant was a big name as an 8th grader. He was an 85-mile-an-hour lefty. I think he was ranked the number 1 left-handed pitcher in the country by perfect game in the 8th grade. Dealt with some unfortunate arm injuries and just, once again, being so young and throwing so hard. It's really tough on the body. And we've, myself, along with a lot of guys in his corner, have really encouraged him to become an animal in the weight room and just get really big and really strong. And he's doing just that. He was up to 91 this fall. And there's a lot more in the tank there. Through a pen for Louisville at the end of October, and they loved what they saw. The slider, I don't have metrics on it. I'll get them at some point. The slider is one of the best high school pitches I've ever seen. It just confuses hitters. It disappears out of the hand. He's got some good arm side run on his fastball, so those two pair well. I just threw some absolute gems this summer for us against some really good teams, just baffled hitters. And, he's still working on taking a step forward in the command department as most young guys that throw that hard are. But he is one that I could see if things kind of come together for him, which I believe they will because he's working so hard and he's so talented. He could be a draft guy by the time he graduates high school. I wouldn't doubt him touching 92, 93 by this spring. And it's just, for him, it's about staying healthy, and he's been really working hard at that. He looks different now than he did a year ago. And you shake his hand, it hurts when he shakes your hand. He's really starting to figure out the other part of this, which is becoming physical and really kind of leaving no stone unturned in the weight room. So I'm excited, really excited for Grant, and I think he's going to have a big spring.
That's awesome. SLU's got a couple kids next year. Logan Stutter.
Yeah, Studer. Logan Studer.
It's Studer. My
Studer.
fault.
Yes, sir.
My
now,
fault.
hey, you would probably prefer you call him Stutter, right? Because he's a stud, right? But we'll go with Studer. Logan, man, I've known Logan since he was 11 years old. He came in and did some pitching work with me and some of my guys. Really, really good behind the plate. Good technically, good glove, good throw, all that, but commands the game really well. Takes charge, makes sure his pitchers know that he's there for them. Yeah, there's the intangibles of the catcher that I think Logan really brings, where the catchers know that when they're throwing to Logan, he's got their back. He's going to work for them. He's going to frame their pitches. He's going to encourage them to hit their spots or get the ball down when they need to get it down. Just a really good teammate. Like I said, I've known him a long time. He's a really good kid. He played varsity as a freshman at SLU, and I want to say, I'm just going to pull it up because it helps to see this stuff. Yeah. He split time as a freshman behind the dish, and he had some success. He had 42 plate appearances, 8 hits, 4 singles, 4 doubles. Logan's one of those guys that varsity baseball wasn't too difficult for him as a freshman. Mm-hmm. He'd seen it before. He was ready for it. He didn't go into it thinking he was a freshman playing varsity. He went into it with the belief of I'm gonna go take this job. Is what I'm gonna do. And he basically did that going into his sophomore year. Numbers wise, had kind of a down campaign, but once again, you're a young guy, competing in one of the best conferences in Missouri, and you're seeing great arm after great arm. I don't, maybe there was an injury there, just not numbers that I would think Logan would put up as a sophomore. And I think you're going to see as a junior, Logan's really going to show everybody what he can do. I think he had a really good summer with that legacy team, playing a great competition or playing a great schedule there. Just a kid that's played high level ball for a long time, expects a lot, works hard. Go on that kid's Twitter and look at all the swings he takes and all the work he does. And when you watch him, that more stands out than just the numbers. When you watch him, like, he looks like he belongs. He looks smooth. He takes command. He's someone coaches are going to love to recruit just because I think he's an easy guy to like and get on his side.
I think it's tough because most people, we're used to seeing kids you don't, but I've seen a not necessarily even a handful of freshmen at bigger schools. Titus Sissel pops to mind as a freshman. Leo Humbert, those two guys, that
Nolan
Sissom, Brendan Pyle.
BP,
Honestly, Pyle was one of the few kids. I saw some other kids, but Pyle really, to me, stood out amongst all that. Even with Humbert, even with Sissel and whatnot, he was never overwhelmed by anything.
Never. That kid's fearless.
Right?
He's also one of the youngest kids in the 26th class. He is fearless. He does not care who you are, how good you are. The better you are, the more he wants to beat you. And that's the trait you need. That is the trait you need to play varsity baseball as soon as possible. You have to go into it believing that not only do you belong, but you're better than the older guys that are there. Yeah. And when you talk about those names, right? When you talk about Sissel, Humbert, Sism, Hyde, Pyle, they went into their freshman year knowing they were better than most of the guys they were playing against, and they showed it. And that's a special trait.
And I think it's so tough. So when you talk about Studer, you got to see those things, and it's tough, man. It's not an easy thing to do. It just really isn't.
It's not.
The confidence level that you need, and because, as you said, age doesn't matter at that point. It's just a matter of, I'm here, I'm that good, let's go play baseball.
Exactly. Yeah, there's so few kids. Like, and that's, we're going over some of these things and we're looking at some of the numbers some of these guys put up as freshmen. When you look at consistency that freshmen are able to put up at the varsity level, that's when you start to realize, okay, no speed, no level of competition is too much for this guy. And I think we'll see that with some of the 27s we're talking about. But I mean, look at like Rockwood Summits. Schneider and Dingus have been playing varsity baseball since they were freshmen. And no speed of no level is too much for them. Caden Throneberry, no level is too much for these guys. And those are the guys that I just think it's really easy to project. Can they play high level college baseball?
Yeah, there you go. And that's when you start talking about the prep baseball rankings, folks. And I love that point right there. You have to understand these aren't necessarily ranked as they are right now. This is about projectability into the collegiate thought process. And I think it's tough because we look and you go, well, I think that guy's better than that guy. Well, maybe right now.
Oh, you can always
Yeah.
have a rankings debate, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm let's use Carrick Jackson at Mizzou. If I'm Carrick Jackson at Mizzou, would I go after the guy that's better? If I player A, player B, would I go after player A who's better than player B today? But I believe player B is going to be better than player A in 2 years. I'm going to take player B. And
Yep.
to some that may seem unfair, but this game isn't fair. So,
That's true. And I think that's the tough thing, because when we talk with Kevin a lot about this, he always kind of look, I mean, it's just because these rankings are projectability.
he
Where
has a
will
tough
this? It's tough, man.
he has a tough job. We're about to talk about a kid who's touching 90 miles an hour, who's ranked in the 60s. He has a tough job.
Michael Strong from SLU, right?
Right.
There you go.
I personally, Michael, in my opinion, needs to be significantly higher. And it's not just because he touches 90, it's because he gets outs at the varsity level, and he's been doing so for quite some time.
And I should have said this at the top of the show. And I think I got in trouble the last time with Kevin because I didn't do this. You have to remember these are rankings that were last updated on September 18th, 2024. Right. So we haven't gone through that next process yet. So there'll be some changes when it comes around the first of the year. So this is as of September 18th, 2024.
Absolutely. Michael Strong he just follows in that long line of SLU pitchers that are really, really good. They've always got a good staff. They've always got good velocity, and they can always pitch. And he just follows in that line. Yeah, I mean, last year, dude, he started 7 games for him. He pitched in 12. He had 35 innings pitched. He had a 3 flat ERA, and the kid can flat out pitch. He struck out 7.5 per game. He only walked 18. He struck out 38. He walked 18. So you're talking about a young man who was probably, 84, 86, 87 last year as a sophomore, right? Okay. He's going to be touching 90 this spring with that command. Find me a ton of guys in the 26th class with his command and his velocity. He's going to go up. Kevin sees it. He's going to move him up. I guarantee it. He's a workhorse. I know that Andy Marks, who trains him, is all in on that kid. He works hard in the weight room. He has turned himself into a legitimate Division I prospect, and everyone's going to be talking about him this spring. I can already tell you.
Wow. Last one here in the 26th class, and see, this is what I get. I love the guys that we get on the show. Coach Wiggins shoots me an email after we talked, and he says, "You have to adjust your deal." This young man says, "You may not have known, but he's pursuing golf now. He's no longer playing baseball." Well, see, that's the level of knowledge that you get with these guys. I love that. It was fantastic. I'm like, well, we'll have to adjust. But it was another Chase Hartman going and playing golf. I love that, right? Why not?
Yeah, Chase, outstanding kid. I've known Chase for a long, long time. He's played for me for quite a while. Check out his golf Instagram. He's a heck of a golfer. He was a really good baseball player too, but I just think he kind of just fell in love with golf a little bit more and decided to go that route.
I can't say that I blame him. I love me some golf as well, man. But I think it's a harder game.
Significantly harder. Yes. Yes.
Mercy. I mean, not that baseball isn't hard, but man.
Golf can humble you, for sure.
Hot, quick, and in a hurry. Boy. Jackson Miller at number 79 here, Chaminade. I've not seen this young man. I don't know if you know anything about him here.
Yeah. He played, I think he started most games for them as a freshman. The bat, I think, needed some time to come around as a freshman, but I know they liked his defense. He didn't pitch a ton for him, but they go into the sophomore year. He was their shortstop. He hit towards the top of their order. He produced, and he also got some innings on the mound. He is tall. He's like 6'5" now. Wow. He's really kind of turned into a long-limbed kind of giant kid. and he could still stick at shortstop being that tall. I think he's got pretty good body control. I've gotten to see him pitch a few innings. I got to see him throw a little bit in the summer. There's a lot to like there. It's probably a low 80s fastball right now, probably creeping into the mid, just with his size. And I think he's still kind of figuring out the whole nuances to pitching. But yeah, someone that Shami is really relying hard on to help drive their offense and lock down their defense up the middle. And I think they're going to use him on the mound significantly as well his junior year. But just another one that's played varsity ball for a while now, going into his third year. Not a whole lot of recognition on him yet, but I think that'll change.
There you go. 2027 class will finish up here. At the top of this, there's a young man I've watched and known about since he was like 11 or 12, and that's Cole Chambers, two-sport athlete. He's as good a soccer player as he is a baseball player too, isn't he?
Oh, I think he was like the next, like in line to be the next goalie for City St. Louis or something crazy like that. I know that he's one of the best goalies in the country, and choosing. Because I know with soccer, I think he would have had to not play baseball because soccer is so stringent at that level. And I think he and the family made a really good decision. It's like, hey, man, I'm a 15, 16-year-old kid. I love baseball. I'm really, really good at it. I see a future in baseball as well. And I think, obviously, for him, it was a great decision because everything's working out. But I like that decision. Got to train him for a little bit a few years back when he was a young kid. Physical, very coachable, always had a smile on his face. Elite talent. He's going to play for the 17U legacy team this summer, so he's going to kind of bypass 16U and challenge himself a little bit more there, which makes sense. He played varsity baseball as a freshman. He played a lot of third base for SLU as a freshman. As a freshman, we were 214, 11 singles, 1 double. Obviously, that's going to trend up. You're seeing really good arms in the MCC. You're a freshman. You're figuring things out. But I think on the mound is where he can be really, really special. I think that's where a lot of schools that are excited to get him on their radar think as well. He pitched in 8 games. He threw 13 innings. He had a 4 ERA. That's going to improve. He's going to get a lot more innings this spring. I'm sure of that. A very, very good two-way talent, where two-way talents are starting to kind of go by the wayside, as we go on. I don't necessarily think he's going to need to pick anytime soon what he's doing. I think he could do both at a very high level. Once again, like I say, the rich get richer, and he lands at SLU last year, and he's there again this year, and he's a great kid and a really good ball player, and he's scratching the surface as to how good of a high school player he'll be.
What's interesting to me is you said two-way players. I think with the roster change and what that goes to, I think you're going to see some of that come back.
I agree. I think schools are going to love two-way guys if they can do it at that level. Right? Jack Noby and Xavier. I talked to Andon about what he'd been hearing. He's legitimately getting to two-way at Xavier, and that's not easy to do. So when you have a school that's looking for guys to where they can keep their roster limit down, but they can essentially get 2 players out of it. Absolutely. And that's why I think Cole should just keep going. I mean, it's going to be 90 off the mound here any day. It's already 86, 87. But I think he'll hit in the middle of that SLU order too. So.
Yeah. Brandon Ott is another young man to Smith Jesuit. I had a chance to see Brandon quite a bit. He is a fun kid to talk to. I really enjoy him. Big personality, big, huge kid. And you see his dad, and you're like, where'd that come from?
Oh, man. Knowing Mike and Brandon since Brandon was 7, that makes me laugh. Dude, Brandon he's just an awesome – I'm not even talking baseball yet. We'll get there. But he's an awesome kid. He's been through – he faced a lot of adversity when he played youth baseball. He played on a really competitive team a year up, and he hit 9th. He played right field. He was never considered the guy, and he did it all with a smile on his face. He worked his butt off day in and day out. Um, he he had huge games for that team. He had game-winning games for that team. He didn't really even pitch until he was 11 or 12, kind of started to fall in love with pitching. He's a left-handed hitter, right-handed pitcher. Um, and then you look at him, he finally gets to play his age at I believe it was 13U. It was either 13U or 14U. And whoa, Brandon's one of the best players on the field. What do you know?
Amazing.
Yeah, and Brandon's gifted with height that poor Mike wasn't. Love you, Mike.
We love you, Mike.
But you're 6'7", 6'6", 6'7", whatever. And he's I've seen him recently. He's really cleaned up his delivery. Everything's a lot smoother. It's more repeatable. It was 85, 86 as a freshman. You figure with that height and that size, it'll be creeping up close to 90 soon. Mm-hmm. You just look at a guy like that, you just assume one day it's going to touch 90, and I don't think there's any question there. The slider, I believe, is really is really gotten good as well. Pitched some big games for DeSmet. Had a really good year as a freshman at DeSmet. Yeah. Let me pull up his numbers here.
And what I like, we saw him at the fall games too, and he was hitting from pitching to swinging the bat to everything that way. He's real easy. His movement, for as big a kid as he is, yes. I love the way he moves. It just looks smooth and easy. You know what I mean?
If you knew the amount of hours that this young man put into everything, you would be mind blown. Like, he is a workhorse. And I was watching him hit the other day, a video of him hitting, and I was like, dude, that is the cleanest I've ever seen B-Man swing look. It looks awesome. Like, it's cool when you see these kids who, when they were 9, 10, 11, 12, and there were some deficiencies here and there, how they've really learned how to control their bodies, and they've started to develop their teenage man strength. And it's crazy how stuff just cleans up. Yeah. And that's the other thing. He didn't get to hit this spring for DeSmet, and then he had to turn around and hit in the summer against good arms, and he did a good job. Yeah. I think all signs, similar to Dylan Curtis, who they were on the same team together, I think all signs point to him being a pitcher at the next level, but still being able to hit at the high school level is a premium. But if you talk about what he did on the mound as a true freshman, he was 5-1, 29 innings, 2.66 ERA. At DeSmet, not a true freshman at a small school either.
Yeah, that's getting it done right there.
Yeah, 21 strikeouts, 16 walks. The Ks are going to go up. The walks are going to go down as he gets older, as he matures even more. No doubt, Division I prospect. No doubt.
But that shows you mental toughness there. 16 walks. It means it's a little more than you'd like, with the 21, with the 29 innings, but yet you're still at a 2.66 ERA. That means you were able to minimize that damage.
Right, for sure. It means you have swing and miss stuff,
Yep, absolutely. Another kid right behind him at number 18, Luke McAtee.
Yeah, I've not gotten to see a whole lot from Luke. And some of these freshmen, I just haven't gotten a chance to see. And like I said, we don't get to play DeSmet. Right. He had a cup of coffee on varsity, 21 plate appearances, hit 400. I had a 571 on base with a 400 slug. So, kind of a typical freshman who's a good bat to ball guy, waiting for the power to develop, which I'm sure when you're not facing 18-year-old arms with spin and velo, he could flash a little bit more power than no extra base hits in those 21 plate appearances, right? But you're asking him to essentially, as a 14, 15-year-old, produce power-wise against really good arms, and sometimes that's just hard to do. Yeah. I believe he's a catcher. I think I also saw him playing some outfield. Obviously going to be tough to catch with Charlie and Kanan behind the dish as seniors. But you look at McAtee and you're like, okay, as a sophomore, can we get him back there every so often? And then that's our guy, junior, senior year. That's a pretty good path for him, especially getting to learn from Kanan and Charlie. Like I said, unfortunately, I just haven't got to see a whole lot of him. Obviously, the ranking, means that he's a ball player. Excited to see more from him and what he can do. I don't know if you know anything about him or what he what he brings to the
I
table.
don't. And that's one of the things I'd love to have Coach Horn with us. We'll do this again, but we wanted to go through this stuff where, hey, might as well just talk some baseball. We're here, right?
For sure. So
And
what number is he? What ranking?
he's number 18. And then when
Okay,
you look at, I got it right here.
You got
Luke
it.
McAtee,
Okay.
yeah, he's
Good stuff.
he's a 193 to 2.02 pop.
6'1", 180.
Yeah,
I mean, that was probably in the that was in September.
and he's a legacy kid.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
So he's probably
pull this up.
he's probably on that squad. Oh, that looks like a pretty healthy swing there, bud. We
Yeah,
don't
absolutely.
have it on the video, but
he's gonna be just fine. He's
that's
got
a
a good
big
balance
kid.
setup. And he's only gonna get bigger. That's the cool part,
Oh
right?
my goodness, that's a big kid, man.
6'1", 180 in September, and in March he's 6'2", 195, and now he looks like everybody else on the field instead of the little freshman. It's funny how that works, right?
These are the things I like to look at when you talk about measurables or metrics. Hand speed, 22.2. As a young man like that, I love when you're seeing 22, 23 on the hand speed. That means you're able to get the bat through the zone well. And when you can get the bat through the zone like that.
That was in June of 2023. That was his 8th grade summer.
There you go.
So that's gone up. Bat speed's gone up. It's 72. Exit velo in February of 24 was on the max was 92. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt why this kid got a chance at the varsity level, and obviously he's going to be a mainstay there this year.
That's it. That's impressive stuff. That is impressive stuff for this young man. And that's the thing, you when you're looking at kids like this, here, I don't know, the next young man at 21 is at CBC, was a freshman last year. I guess it's Cord Gage.
Corday Gage.
Okay. So you know a little bit about this young man?
I do. I've heard awesome things from kids who know him or who know of him. With CBC being as deep as they usually are, I don't believe it doesn't look like he got any varsity time. I'm fairly certain he played a ton on their JV team. Very athletic. I'm looking at. I pulled him up here because I wanted to kind of look at these guys before we talked.
Not a lot of stats to really look at here. He was February of 24. He had an 89 exit velocity max.
Yep. Plays for that really good 2027 GBA team. Mm-hmm. They have some really good players on that team, and I think he's towards the top end of that. Good balanced swing. Yeah, I mean,
I think there's a chance we might see him this year on that CBC squad, right? As a sophomore.
Yeah. I think he's got a real shot, without a doubt. I mean, he was one of the better players on JV as a freshman. You're looking at. Let's see. We didn't get the blast stats on him. I mean, he's 83 from the outfield in February last year. I mean, showing arm strength as a freshman like that's always nice. And CBC graduated some really good players last year. These guys are gonna have to fill that role. Corday can play middle infield or center field. That's huge for them. So,
yeah, Derek Pitts on to Cincinnati. That's that's a big hole to fill right there, man.
Absolutely, yeah. But I've heard nothing but really good things for a long time, for like 2 or 3 years now, about Corday. So I think we'll know a lot more about him after this spring.
Last one here, number 58 on the prep baseball rankings. Connor Lucas, another SLU kid. What do you got?
Sorry.
No, what do you got?
Well, he's got a top exit velo of 97, outfield velo of 83. I want to say he's 82, 84 off the mound. He played some varsity baseball for SLU last year as a freshman. Let me pull up that. I believe he's a catcher. I think he plays all over. I know he pitches. Unwin, one of my SLU guys, told me he's also a catcher, and they really like him there. Let me see here.
The hand speed is there at 21.2, bat speed 80.8 miles an hour. That's probably a max. One of the
Oh
other
my!
things, one of the other
Wow,
things too, this is from September 10, 2023. The average
goodness,
exit velo, when you got average exit velo at 80, that means you can barrel the baseball consistently.
absolutely, yeah. The average to me is more important than the max.
I
Um,
agree.
Hey, he had two appearances,
Mm-hmm.
5.3 innings, I'm sorry, 2 earned runs, a 2.63 ERA. But once again, you're a freshman pitching at the varsity level. That's not easy to do. Another one similar to Corday, to where he's and Luke, where I think he's going to get a full go this year at the varsity level. People will be talking about him. I think that my guys faced him this fall, and he did really well. He could throw the ball. He commanded it well. Um, yeah. Once again, Slew gets another really good, solid player.
And that's one of the things, Dave, we talk about a lot is getting down. And this is one of the things in the winter workout tour. We're going to be down with the recruits this winter. We're looking forward to coming down there. I'm trying to get over to see the guys over at the Naturals. We hadn't been down there
Yeah.
with Rich Mendes Club, and getting a little more because we're up here.
Right.
And so getting down that way a little bit more, getting more work on that side of the metro area, because there's a lot of good baseball players down there. A lot of good
There's a
baseball
lot
players.
of good ball players in South County, and then moving into Jefferson County. Yeah, there's some really good baseball down there, and you're seeing kids that live in those areas that are going to some of these MCC schools as well. So it's
Baseball is just good in the state. You go down, from Cape Girardeau and you come up that corridor into Metro St. Louis to St. Charles County, and then the corridor back over to Kansas City, back down to the Southwest. It's scattered around the state. The amount of, when you go to the central part, Elias Catholic, Jeff City in there, Southern Boone, Father Tolton, all in that central, and then Columbia around there with Rockbridge. Who am I missing in there?
battle.
Battle, Hickman.
Hickman.
Just my goodness. Where isn't there good baseball in this state?
I agree with you, and I mean, then if you look at the Metro East, like you look at Southern Illinois, right there next to us, loaded down there too.
Oh my
So
goodness.
everybody wants to say how good baseball is in the South and all that. Like I think our players as a whole rival pretty much any region. Obviously, there's certain regions that get a little bit more outside time and get better weather, but just the development of all the facilities that we've had in the Midwest and allowing kids to play this sport as year round as they possibly can, I think it's really helped just kind of bring the Midwest talent level as close to those southern states as we can.
Absolutely. Got to give a shout out to Tim Funkhauser. Another,
Oh yeah,
he hit the 600 win barrier over that as well. Won another
awesome.
state title at Edwardsville. They just keep rolling on.
And you're a Southern Illinois school, and you're taking on massive schools in Chicago. Like you're not just winning a state title in rural Illinois. No, you're taking on the heavy hitters in Chicago. That's impressive.
It is, man. It just is. As always, Bud, I appreciate it. I'm unfortunate we didn't get to have Coach Horn here today, but it's always a pleasure. We're gonna have. I guess. Also, don't make sure in a couple weeks you're going to be on with Mitch
Mitch.
Thomas on the hitting zone. He's
Yep.
coming on talking some baseball with Mitch. I love having you as a contributor on this on our channel, man. I really do. I appreciate your time very, very much.
Thank you. I love it. It's a blast. Anything I can do to help market and just further the sport of baseball and these kids in our area. Like it's an absolute pleasure. And like I said, you guys do just an amazing job, and it's very, very selfless what you guys do. And I think more and more people that will start to watch this and listen to the podcast, just the more that we're going to be able to reach. But for you 27 guys outside of B-Man, who I know really well, we'll get more on you soon here. We got to see a little bit more.
Absolutely. So make sure, hey, we're going to also be over at Baldwin Under the Lights this year. Again, Kirkwood, Webster, Groves going at it. Looking forward to our Friday night lights over to Baldwin this first Friday in April. I think it's like April 2nd.
First Friday in April this year. Yeah, they pushed it way up. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're looking
Maybe
forward
it won't
to
rain
that.
this weekend. Maybe it won't rain that weekend. It seems to rain that Friday in late April, almost every Friday. So
Absolutely. Well, we'll see. Hey, folks, hit the subscribe button down there. Hit the dinger next to it. It's not a home run, but it gets you notifications for upcoming episodes such as this. We do appreciate your support. And, hey, everybody, have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers, give them some advice, Dave.
throw strikes.
I like it. Hitters, hit one over
Hit
the... We'll see y'all next time.